Yuzu is a staple of Australian fusion fine dining, and it's often considered rare and precious. Yet it's actually very easy to grow, and it's a very hardy citrus, and especially in a cool climate, it's probably the most cold hardy of all the citruses. Yuzu originated from China, and it's used extensively in Japanese and Korean cooking. The fruit is fragrant and aromatic, and it has a tart citrusy flavour, a mix of grapefruit, mandarin and lemon, and it's got a really floral aroma. Yuzus are relatively new to Australia, but they definitely have a bit of a culinary following these days, and internationally they're very well known. Yuzu is aromatic and can be squeezed into drinks and juiced for sauces, and generally used where you would use a lemon. It's interesting though, because all these wonderful cookbooks that I have, and it's not my exhaustive supply, they all have one thing in common. They don't have a single recipe for yuzu. Later for how to eat and cook these dimply skin pieces of fruit. But first the easy bit, how to actually grow yuzu. A trip to the nursery will give you a nicely advanced plant, and yuzu do best in typical citrus growing conditions. Full sun, free draining soil with lots of organically enriched ingredients like compost, well-rotted manure. Worm juice is good too. Yuzu does grow really well in a cool climate. We go down to about -7 most winters, and it can withstand down to about -9. While you can stretch yuzus into colder climates, generally the optimum is a winter that goes down to about -5. Mine is surviving well here because it's between the thermomass of two warm houses and it's in a sheltered position. Frost can make all their leaves drop. The yellowing of the leaves on my tree is from frost and cold damage, and the leaves can drop off, but they do come back. Soil should be well drained but fairly moist, and like all citrus, the roots are generally close to the surface. I fertilise about every 6 weeks. In winter I use a soil conditioner like worm juice and seaweed, and in the growing season I add fish emulsion, and I'll add a small layer of compost or worm castings to the top of this. Keep weeds and mulch away from the base of the trunk to avoid collar rot. Yuzu grows very well in containers, and the containers also help serve to bonsai the tree. If you put yuzu in the ground and if the conditions are good, it can grow up to about 6 meters. But you can also buy yuzu with dwarf rootstock, and that'll help keep its size a little under control as well. If you have a yuzu in a container, you'll probably need to prune it at some stage. Take out all the cross branches and the dead and diseased, and then take the shape down to your desired size. The best time to prune is at the end of winter and into spring. Always cut back to a node or the trunk. You'll also need to repot, and I think my barrel with its small neck will be a future problem. Harvest when the fruit is yellow, and if you can keep them on the tree, they survive the longest in that way. If you harvest them, they really only last a week out of the fridge. Watch out for the spikes when you're harvesting. They're quite treacherous. Some things that you can do with yuzu. You can propagate the plant from seed, and unlike a lot of other seeds, you can generally get a yuzu tree from seed that is true to the original. Wash the juice and gunk off the seed. Plant the seed while fresh and don't let the seed dry out to about 2 centimeters deep. I'm going to water it with a little bit of worm juice, sit on a warm windowsill inside and see what kind of luck I have. I'm also experimenting with germinating the seeds onto some damp paper, and for that I'm going to peel off the outer layer of skin because I understand it's a bit more effective for germination. Obviously, cooking and eating your yuzu is the best way to use it. Yuzu is a tart fruit to eat on its own, and it also contains lots of very large seeds. You can use the peel and the juice. I'm going to make a miso and yuzu glaze on this eggplant. Brush with a neutral oil and then place on a baking tray. The first yuzus I grew, I thought I was doing something wrong because the fruit was so dry. I realise now that it's just not a very juicy fruit, and so it takes a lot of yuzus to actually make a splash of yuzu juice. That was very quick and easy to make. And for dessert, yuzu shortbread. So here's one more thing to do with yuzu. Joyce and I have done an artwork inspired by the beauty of yuzu, and while we enjoy a shortbread biscuit made with yuzu juice and a tea, I'll leave you with the artwork. And also, before I go, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for all the subscriptions, and I hope to see you in the next episode. Bye.